Mr. President.
The Senator from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today I rise to pay tribute to my longtime Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee staff director and dear friend, Joe Schultz, who will soon be taking on a new challenge after more than 15 years of service in the United States Senate. Now, the first thing I have to say about Joe, just to get out of the way, is he's a proud Ohio native and graduate of The Ohio State University, which is an immediate challenge for anyone from Michigan, whether you are a University of Michigan grad or, as I am, a Michigan State University grad. In fact, his first job in the Senate was working for my colleague and friend, Senator Brown of Ohio. Senator Brown swears that Joe was 6 feet 2 inches and had hair when he worked for him, and says it's all about the farm bills that somehow changed that. But somehow I convinced Joe to come and work for me on the Agriculture Committee, in part by assuring Senator Brown that Joe would still be working for Ohio because Senator Brown's on the Ag Committee. And I'm so glad and lucky that I was able to do that. Joe started as our chief economist. He's a great numbers guy, and nobody loves spreadsheets as much as Joe. Of course, he's so much more than a numbers guy, though, and we very quickly found that out. He always knows every part of farm policy, and he's an amazing people person, someone you definitely want on your team when you go into a farm bill negotiation, which have been known to be tough. Joe instinctively knows what people's reactions will be, what they will need in order to get an agreement, and he's always had his finger on the pulse of the Agriculture Committee and the community. That's in large part because agriculture is way more than a job for Joe. It's his life. He grew up on a farm, family farm in Ohio. He even convinced his wife, Virginia, to have their wedding on the family farm. It was beautiful, and I was so honored to be in attendance with all their family and friends and their sheep. Now, if you've ever talked with Joe, you probably know his family raised sheep on the farm. And boy, can he tell you some wild stories. For years, Joe would have a contest on Facebook during lambing season. He called it Lambageddon. His friends would all guess the number of lambs that would be born over President's Day weekend, typically the busiest lambing weekend of the year. And of course, he always took time off to be there. Whoever got closest to the correct number of lambs got bragging rights and the opportunity to name a lamb. Given his dedication to the family flock, nobody on the Ag Committee was at all surprised when Joe and Virginia welcomed 2 adorable babies, Will and Izzy, into their own family, twins, a little bit more than a year ago. After all, sheep typically have twin births, I understand. If you've ever worked with Joe, one of the first things you notice is his wonderful positive attitude. He's quick to smile, quick to laugh. He always assumes the best of people. He makes everything he's involved in so much better. That's true whether you're talking about very contentious farm bill negotiations, and we've had more than a few since 2011, or field hearings and meetings with stakeholders. I wonder if he's kept a running total of the number of farms he's visited in Michigan. Nobody, and I can mean nobody, can talk about crop insurance like Joe. He knows all the details. I'll never forget Brandon Fewens, who worked for me for 20 years as my Northern Michigan regional manager and is now the USDA Rural Development Michigan State Director. Brandon told this story about seeing this firsthand. He remembered a farm bill hearing during which one attendee asked a very technical question about regulations. Joe gave a very detailed answer and then said, hold on. He then consulted the Farm Bill legislative text in front of him, found the applicable section, and repeated word for word what he had just said off the top of his head. And then there were the Codels. I'll never forget the trip to Africa in 2014 with the women members of the Senate. I led this first all-women's Codel, Mr. President, and members of the Agriculture Committee. We went to 5 countries on 2 continents in 10 days, and many of our stops were in very rural areas. The Codel focused on food security, global hunger, empowering women and girls, and agriculture trade. Having Joe along was such a huge help because of his broad knowledge of agricultural issues. And I have to say, he's an amazing travel buddy. I know every senator on the trip would agree with me, and we're so glad that he was part of the trip. One thing I'm extremely proud of, and I know Joe is too, is the strong sense of collegiality he has nurtured on our amazing Agriculture Committee staff and beyond. As one former colleague said, Joe's the kind of leader who makes working long hours under crazy stress tolerable and survivable. Even Republicans have wonderful things to say about Joe. That's not something you see on every Senate committee. Joe, I know I speak for all of us, Republicans included, when I say we will miss you deeply. I'm so grateful to have had your leadership and friendship as we have steered the Agriculture Committee together. We have an amazing, talented ag staff because of you and your leadership. I wish you and Virginia, your 2 beautiful children, much success and happiness as you move forward to your new adventures. I know you will be successful, and I look forward to celebrating all those successes. Mr. President, I yield the floor.